go.
All right. Motion to open the Board of Public Works meeting February 12th, 2020.
Second.
All right. Anyone from the public like to speak on a non-agenda item?
I'll say yes.
Sure.
Okay, good.
Can you just state your name?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And we'll pass the sign out.
Oh, okay, good. I was gonna say you're not gonna be able to.
It's a tricky one.
Good. Jay Andrazik, 64 Division Street. Really just, I know, well, this may actually go to an agenda item.
Okay.
But I'm really concerned about the stormwater fee.
Okay.
And I know there's quite a few folks that are. So. And my big concern is making sure that next meeting is all issues are able to be addressed.
The public hearing on the 26th.
Yeah. And this may go to that agenda item, but will the rate, suggested rate increase from the tie and bond study, or is that where you're leaning, or are you looking at altering that in some way, or?
Well, I can't speak to a public
No.
speak question
Okay.
in that form. But it may loosely come up in item number 6, but if not, it will probably come up at a meeting before that. Any other public? Okay, item number 2, Mayor. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Don Micho, 24 Pine Brook Drive, I'll sign the paper when it comes around. I just would like to see at the public meeting an explanation, if we go with the stormwater thing, how you're coming up with the numbers for each individual residence. And is Williston paying this too, or are they tax-free on this also?
They would have to pay that.
Prefer not to have a stormwater tax. Do it some other way. It's just another tax tacked onto the thing.
Okay, thank you, Frank. All right. Item number 2, Mayor.
Nothing to add.
Nothing yet? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so item number 3, we've got a request from City Council for a retrospective of 5 years of DPW grant activity.
Yeah. As you know, the majority of our grants come out of planning. And our engineering department is working with the planning department to try to pull something together, and we don't have that complete yet.
Okay. Is that something we expect to have, they requested to have it before?
I'm hoping to. And not sounding like this is not important, but right now planning and the engineers are out straight, and so they're trying to fit it in and get this done. So I will push them on this.
We don't keep any sort of ledger of that would, I didn't know if we had anything that was like a quick ledger of access of, it's just as they come in, we enjoy.
We enjoy it. Right?
Chair, may I?
Yes.
It won't be full detail, but or a ledger, but the auditor can print out grants that we've received that have been closed, that are open, and I think they can do it by department. And I agree with the director that there's overlap. Sometimes it's hard to, like MassWorks, planning and the mayor's office put in that application, but once it's designed, it becomes really a DPW, public infrastructure program. But our auditor might be able to print up, so I don't know if it'd be complete, and it would literally just be lines of what it is in amount, but that might be helpful.
You'll check.
Yeah.
Yes, I will.
I've had to go searching for and had some luck.
Yeah, I think the intent of their request was to see if the DPW was doing everything possible to find other means
Yeah.
of funding, rather than implementing the stormwater fee
Yeah.
or offsetting it was sort of the point of their request. All right, so we will work on that and revisit that for the next meeting.
Sure.
All right, so this was added to the item number 4, go over information from Time Bond on the IWRMP.
Yeah, I thought I would have information today, but I don't. There will be detailed information coming next week at the 19th, as far as what the recommendations would be and so forth.
Okay, and you had forwarded us these charts that were in the IWRMP.
Yes.
Was that just supplemental or just for our review?
That was just for your review.
Nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed. This is in the...
This is the appendix that we saw before.
Appendix in the IWRMP, yeah.
So that'll be at the 19th
The
meeting.
19th meeting.
So I'll have it ready. All right, getting it close.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, we are.
All right, so item number, does anybody have anything to speak on those? I'm sorry, last 2 items? Okay. I had added discussion of the Connecticut River outfall status and possible alternative solutions. That was more just a, curiosity as to how the planning of the, found repair, the found damage was. And I know I had recommended or requested before maybe some sort of diversion. That got me thinking along the lines of what is the requirement that we are discharging all the way to the Connecticut River and utilizing this deteriorating pipeline? Has there been any thought or request for, I know now we're doing an emergency discharge to the manhand. Is there any possibility of making that a permanent discharge and abandoning the line rather than rehabbing it?
Yeah, that was actually looked at in the IWRMP, but what would happen is, because the Manhan is such a smaller body of water than the Connecticut River, our treatment plant is what we call secondary treatment. We would essentially have to make our discharge drinking water quality
That was my
to
thought
put
too.
it into the Manhan, which would require the treatment plant to go from secondary to tertiary treatment, which would be millions of dollars just to make that permit to be able to go.
I understood that would most likely be the reason, but we are currently just doing it. Is it just because it's an emergency nature?
It's just because it's an emergency nature.
And then even if it is millions, do we have a cost if we had to rehab the entire discharge pipe?
Yes,
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
it could be millions and more millions or millions and less millions,
It's millions, but it's less millions to repair the Connecticut River outfall.
Okay.
If we line the Connecticut River outfall, I believe the IWRP says between 3 and 4 million. If we replace that line to the Connecticut River, it would be like $8 million, but it would be tens of $millions to
Okay.
make our treatment plant
But
tertiary.
it has been looked at.
It has been looked at.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get my hands around all the projects that are currently,
Yeah.
how they got to that point. All right, and item number, sorry. Yeah.
Just on that, one of the access points to this project is next to my house. So this morning,
They were there.
I was there, I walked down and saw what they were cutting down and where they had marked everything, and very thorough. And I would just comment, it was impressive that they were taking down exactly what they need. I mean, it was like linear. There's not, and that's a beautiful walking area, and so it was nice. And they were like Fort Hill Road. I think I scared them a little bit. I don't know. I didn't bring the dogs. I was just like, oh my gosh. But they're on it, and they're still there.
They're still there.
I just went home
That's right.
and to walk the dogs, and they're still going at it.
All right. Item number 6, format and agenda for the public hearing.
Is that something you have, Michelle?
I gave them a copy of it.
Oh, okay, so it's here.
Yep.
Oh, all right.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was this part, I discussed it with Barbara, and she gave me a complete breakdown on how it should
How the
be.
meeting should go.
Okay, yeah, it was just, I wanted to make sure we had
Right.
almost a prescriptive, so I wasn't
Yep,
missing
and that's when I
anything.
sat down with her, and she went right through everything on, no, like if they come to the podium, don't let them discuss from the podium to the audience, it's strictly to you, and it's, yeah, she was very, very, had a lot of things to let me know about.
Yeah, all right. Is this set in stone, or we can,
This
This is pretty much,
this
pretty
is,
much is how because I sat down with her and asked
okay,
how
it's
the
not for
council.
us to revise or,
right.
Right, she's like, this is pretty much, it's the way it's run, this is how you do it, so,
okay,
yeah. Because I asked how city council handled their public hearings and what the protocol was for that.
okay.
I do have a question on line 7. It says
Yes.
their people will come.
Oh.
So it's Time Bond
Oh.
people?
Or
THEIR?
is that
No,
public?
at that time, people will come to the podium to
Yeah.
speak one at a time. No,
I was just confused by the word.
they're,
Yeah, oh, yeah, that's my type of,
But that's for-
yeah.
So
It just,
public?
you don't even,
That-
yeah,
that's
the
for the
public,
public. The
yeah.
public at that
The
time
public will
will come,
come,
right.
yeah.
Okay, thanks.
She didn't have anything like typed out for me to use the.
Oh, that's what I thought. I thought that's what it meant. Yeah.
Has she seen this to audit it or verify it?
No,
But
she
she
just, I
dictated
just,
it to her?
yeah, she dictated it to me and I wrote it down.
Okay,
Yeah,
So,
works.
all right.
but I can double check with her and just send you notes if there's any changes.
Okay, I guess the only thing I didn't realize was that the vote on the rates is that night, or if we postpone it to vote later, it has to be in a public meeting?
Yes, we'd
But
have to
like-
do the whole hearing thing
You
again.
have to open again.
Okay, so
You open it.
we can't take the information from there and then vote on it in a week or two in our normal
No.
weekly session?
Now you
Okay.
have to have another public hearing and have it
Or
in.
continue that one.
Continue
Yeah.
that public
Yeah.
hearing. Good.
Okay. Just a lot to digest in one evening.
No, it is. It is.
I don't think that had caught that. All right.
Good question.
Yeah.
All right, these are the minutes from.
Oh, I'm sorry, did I?
No,
skip
I
over
think
that?
I think I replaced that one with the discussion of,
Okay.
for city council,
All
but.
right, so that was the last
Yeah.
item, so motion to approve the minutes from the January 29th, 2020 public hearing, public meeting.
Second?
Do you have one up for us to sign?
I've got.
Oh, you got it.
Here, this looks like the first page
Yeah.
and the second page.
Sorry.
Yeah, you guys should have copies of them.
Yeah.
12.
All day?
All day.
All right. Anything new for a director's report? Item number 7?
Yeah, I have two things. The first is a letter of support for the CDBG application for Phase 4 construction in the Admiral Street area. So this is something that goes into the application package that goes to the state, saying that the planning department sends in, saying that the Board of Public Works supports this. So at this time, if you have that letter, I'd like the chairman to sign this, and then we get this to the,
Yep, I actually attended the public meeting last week, just to,
that whole area there. They've been so successful in getting 3 different grants there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
stringing them
to
together.
get those, not only get the roads done, but they've taken care of problem sewers in there, problem drainage, and those are roads that would never come up to the surface on our Chapter 90 because we just
Yeah.
don't have the funds. So if they're willing to do the work, we'll do and get the grant we'll do the construction admin and make sure it gets done right. So they've been excellent in doing that. The only other thing I had is that next week I will have a road list of where we'd like to spend our Chapter 90 money this year.
Okay.
And for the board's, hopefully the board's approval.
I just have these for FYI too, that those are going out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the abatement for 35 Plain Street,
That we
that-
approved last meeting?
yeah, that's.
The letter will be going out
Yeah,
to them.
that's going out. And we did advertise in the Daily Hampshire Gazette for the public hearing for the rate hearing, which we're required to do.
Okay. All right. Any public input on anything discussed today?
On item 6,
Mm-hmm.
are we to presume that the rates suggested in the rate study are going to be what's going to be acted upon? I mean, there's going to be a vote in 2 weeks. It'd be great if the public could know what we're going to be voting on,
Do we have,
what you're going to be voting on.
that's what we were hoping to have today, or?
Yeah, that'll be, the recommendations the board will have next week on the 19th.
Okay.
Okay.
I have one other crazy question that may not relate. I didn't print a copy of your agenda like a dummy, but is there any way possible, I've been looking for it all over, to get copies or have made public the mandates that we have to adhere to is what is causing all this rate raising and storm
And
fees?
for,
That would be in our DIPD's permit, and it's probably a document that, it's in the document.
That's what I was afraid of.
Yeah.
Every time, a good answer coming from the people that are suggesting the rates is we're mandated it. Well,
Yeah.
but then I look elsewhere and it says, in some of the Massachusetts information, it said west of Boston or in Western Mass, not all cities and towns are on these mandates. Now, to me, that's, I don't know if that's true or
we're an
not.
MS4 community, right? We do.
We're an MS4 community. Some of the smaller towns are not because they're smaller. But we have outfalls that we have to sample. We have certain requirements that we have to sweep our streets so many times a year, clean our catch basins so many times a year. So there's, smaller towns aren't going to have those requirements because they don't have the catch basins, or they don't, they just don't have that. But we are what's called an MS4 community, so that those do apply to us.
Well, that's a question that may come up next week. Be prepared.
Yeah, I think we can discuss it under item 6. What is the nature of Time Bond's presentation going to be? Is it purely going to be on the rate study, or were they able to incorporate any of my requests to sort of do some of the background into the IWRMP and what the costs are, to sort of have some more background information on what got us to requesting the rate study rather than just presenting on the rate study itself?
Well, I think a lot of that portion is going to be handled by me, because the IWRMP was presented to us with a list of projects that need to be done, that the engineer said needed to be done in water, sewer, and stormwater, and they actually listed them by a ranking,
Yes.
the risk involved, and whether it's a safety risk or whether it's an environmental risk or whether it's a regulatory risk, they listed those by risk. So they actually came up with a list that says, yeah, these things are things that you need to do. So what I was planning on doing is having copies of these there that people could look at and see and say, yeah, in wastewater, they're telling us that we have $14 million worth of repairs and upgrades that we need to do to our system. And here they are, going out over the next 5 years.
Right.
And that, I'm sorry to interrupt, but that figure's predicated on what? How do they determine that that needs to be repaired or upgraded?
We did what was called an integrated water resource management plan. We had an engineering firm, actually had two engineering firms work together because one knew our wastewater system and one knew our water system. We had them work together to come in and assess, look, physically come in, look around, see what we have. We have a treatment plant that was built in the 70s that we're being asked to treat to what's required in the 2020s, and the treatment plant was never designed to do that. So there may be upgrades that we have to make to our plant to make sure that we treat the wastewater to what the new standards are and what our new permit is. They came in and looked at what we had and said, well, you know, these pumps are put in the 70s. You've got to replace these. They're energy efficient. They're way too big. You can't buy parts for them. If they break, what are you going to do? This type of thing. They looked at our water system and said, you know, you've got some old water mains on these roads. If they break, you're going to have to scramble to replace it. You need to put that in some sort of a plan to get those replaced as you're going along, not wait and be reactive. So that's what this whole thing they put this thing all together. So what they did was they looked at the water and came up with a list of priorities. They looked at the wastewater, came up with a list of priorities. Then they looked at the stormwater, came up with a list of priorities. Then they put them all together and said, well, this wastewater project is way more important than this water or stormwater project, so that's number one, but this water project needs to go number two, because they realize there's only a certain amount of money, and you can't take the project number one out of this, and project number one out of that, and project number, I mean, that would be too expensive. So they again combine them all, and then work them into this page here that shows which ones are more important and which ones we need to go after first.
And that full report is available on the city.
Yeah, and all the appendices to it. If you go to the city documents, then the public works section, and then there's IWRMP folder, and then they're all in there.
So what people have to understand is that a lot of work went into this, and this just isn't the director sitting here going, we need this because this is what we have to do. No, a lot of work went into this. There's a lot of backup to show that this is documented, that this is real. It's not that a wish list that the director said, geez, let's just do this.
Yeah, I think, and I understand it. I just want to make sure that we can capture that in some way in the public hearing, that it's not just these are, you know, slide A, these are the rates, slide B, this is another option of rates. This is what went into getting us to this point.
That's correct.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that that's conveyed.
Yeah, that's correct.
Chairman?
Yes.
I would, also, I mean, the process started in 2015, like started to percolate, and I have a list upstairs of the number of DPW meetings that touched upon it, but also the public hearings. So, you know, I mean, this isn't the first and last public hearing. And I'm not saying people should retain all of this info, but you know, I mean, when things come to action, then people notice that. But
I don't want it to be the focus of the meeting, but there will be new faces at this meeting that were not at those meetings.
Agreed.
And to sort of a little bit of onboarding would be helpful, I think,
yeah,
for us and for the public.
Yeah,
good.
yeah. Understood.
Okay.
And that's what I had planned.
Great.
The context.
Yes.
Of both.
Right.
All right. Any other discussion? Motion to adjourn the meeting?
Second.
Okay. Did you push the button, Mayor?